What's going on YouTube? So those of you familiar with our channel know that we have a long-term 2023 BMW 330e. And this marks the 1-year anniversary of getting this model. And we're basically going to be giving you guys a long-term update today.
We're going to be talking about the problems we've experienced with it, the wear and tear items, as well as how expensive it is to own this BMW 3 Series. So let's go ahead and dive in.
Now, we like to start off these long-term ownership reviews by talking about any major problems that we're having. Now, thankfully, we have had none with this 330e at the 1-year mark. Now, the 330e, there are a couple recalls impacting a few units that are not this model, so we haven't had any recalls or anything to repair. But we do want to go ahead and just kind of roll right into the wear and tear, and I'll hand it over to Mason to talk about those issues.
Yeah, so like Drew said, we do want to talk about the wear and tear items, and if we've had any issues when it comes to that over the year that we've owned this vehicle. Now, we have had one, so I want to go ahead and start out here in the trunk area. So we do have a power trunk on this refreshed 3 Series, and this is an area where we've noticed some issues. Now, this is probably developed in the last, I would say, 2 months or so that we've owned the vehicle. It did it every once in a while, and now it's done it very consistently every single time we go to shut the trunk. You hear this noise right here. Ouch. makes me hurt a little bit. It just probably needs a little bit of lubrication or something along those lines, but I'll just go ahead and show you again. It pretty much does it every single time you open and shut the trunk, and it just doesn't have a great sound for a vehicle that's only a year old. Yeah, so not the best noise. Now, as far as some other wear and tear items, on this 3 Series, we've had really no issues when it comes to this. The paint is holding up very well for this model. This is the Brooklyn Gray paint color on this particular tester. And I do want to point out, for those of you looking to buy maybe a Brooklyn Gray BMW, this paint is super easy to keep clean. Over the last year that we've had it, even when it's absolutely filthy dirty on the outside, it still looks pretty clean if you're at a distance. So I definitely love this paint color. The tires have had no abnormal wear and tear on them. These are run-flat tires. Of course, we haven't had to replace those just yet. We have a little over 6,200 miles on the car so far. All of the lighting elements are still fully functional, as you would expect. We have full LED headlights up here in the front. The taillights are still fully functional as well. So really no other wear and tear items here on the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and get inside, and we can dive into some of those German build quality elements. Now, you hear us talk about it a lot in our reviews of the German build quality. Certainly we appreciate how everything feels very solid inside of this cabin, but how's it holding up after a year? So let's go ahead and dive into that. The seats, these are the Sensitech faux leatherette seats. Of course, it's finished in a nice red color, and I have to say, these look straight like right out of the factory. I mean, there is no wear and tear at all on these seats over the last year. I will say, the thigh extension, this is pretty much a crumb magnet. If you have this one fully extended out, every crumb, every skin cell or whatever is going to collect in there. So that's a little bit annoying to keep cleaning in and out. But the seat itself is holding up really well, guys. You have a nice perforation here. There's no tears in the seat. There's no signs of even me getting in and out of the seat itself. So I have to say A+ on that. The steering wheel is the same way. This is a really nice BMW M steering wheel, holding up very well. There's no creases in the leather, no scratches or anything like that. I also want to talk about this area. A lot of new cars nowadays are using piano blacks. This 3 Series actually has almost no piano blacks besides this piece right here, which is not a common touch area. So that being said, no scratches or anything on the wood all through here or anything like that. And as far as how everything's put together, it's really put together solidly. Everything, when you shut it, has some authority to it, and I appreciate that. And driving the vehicle, no rattles or anything along those lines.
Now, the next section I want to talk about is annoyances and just general livability. And I'm currently sitting inside the driver's seat because this is something I kind of want to demonstrate so you can visually see it. And that's just the way that BMW has tuned the regen and the brake feel. So of course, braking power is totally great. No problems there at all. It's just about when you're coming to a stop. The feel of it makes it very touchy, so that last little bit when you're coming to a stop, you end up kind of giving it that little jerk like that. And this is something I thought Mason and I would get used to, but we actually haven't. It's just the way it's tuned makes it very difficult to have that focus where you have to really kind of almost come to a stop and lift off a little bit at the end. It really requires a delicate touch to come to a stop real smoothly, and that's a little bit annoying. Now, another minor annoyance that is good to demonstrate here is the fact that this vehicle turns itself off when you get out. Now, I understand this is a safety feature. However, it is still annoying. For instance, if you get out to get the mail, for instance, the vehicle has now powered itself completely off. Your air conditioning stopped working, all this and that. It gets very hot here in Kentucky during the summer, so it might be 100 degrees, and by the time you walk over here, get your mail, get back in the vehicle, the interior is baking hot again. And of course, from a filming perspective, it also likes to turn off all of its headlights, all this stuff like that. So it's very difficult to keep it all lit up to show you guys on video. And our third annoyance with this model is the voice assistant. So as you probably can guess, Mason and I spend a lot of time talking about cars, including BMWs. And because of that, the voice assistant erroneously turns on all the time. Well, there's a way that you can change the name of it to not respond to its hey BMW. But as you can see, it continues to respond to that even after we change the name. So anytime we happen to mention BMW, or even if we mention Lexus, this has Alexa, and sometimes it responds to the word Lexus. So there's constantly voice assistants that keep popping up, and you have to press this thing to cancel it out, and it just keeps talking. Just a little bit of a minor annoyance that we thought we could work around, but it still activates. But I don't want you to interpret that as that this has glitchy technology, because it certainly does not. It actually has some of the very best in-car technology we have ever engaged with in any vehicle. This iDrive 8.0 system is very feature-rich and very stable. One of the things I really appreciate with it is Android Auto and Apple CarPlay run wirelessly all the time. They hardly ever come up with any types of issues, and they're super smooth, high resolution display, and overall it's really a joy to use the in-car technology. And this also has an app which is very good as well, with lots of useful information about driving habits as well as our range. And speaking of range, again, this vehicle is a plug-in hybrid, so the recharge rate is quite quick. You can recharge this vehicle usually in about 2 hours on our level 2 charger.
And taking off there does kind of remind me to tell you guys, if you're new to the channel and maybe haven't seen some of our other content about the 330e specifically, and maybe you're curious as to how far it goes on a single charge or whatnot, we actually have done real-world range test on this model, so you can see how far this goes on a single charge. We're going to cover that in the separate video. We're not going to go too, for the sake of being redundant, we're not going to go too in-depth for most of you guys who are just returning subscribers there.
Right.
And I do also want to point out, if you want to know all the details about a 3 Series, we have a full review also on the channel of this exact same model, where you can dive into all the features and equipment that you're going to get with this. Now we want to dive into the part of our ownership video that you might be very curious about, the cost to own. Now, when we bought this car, we got a lot of really great comments, congratulating us about it and all that. But of course, this is a German luxury vehicle, so we also got a lot of comments that said, oh my gosh, it's so expensive to maintain. Yeah. Oh, it's going to blow up, all those things. We've already shown you that the car hasn't blown up in the first year that we've had it. There's only that one little trunk issue so far, really. But how much is it costing to maintain this vehicle? Because that is a very legitimate point when you bring a German luxury vehicle up. Now, BMW does include 3 years of complimentary maintenance on all of their new vehicles right now. So that's a very good thing that we've definitely taken advantage of. When we go in for our first service, it is not going to cost us a dime. We're right around 6,300 miles at the time of this filming on this vehicle, so we haven't quite done our first service. That will be at 7,500 miles, and that's not going to cost us a single thing. Now, of course, once that 3 years expires, we will be looking at higher maintenance costs for oil changes, all those things, because, of course, this is a luxury vehicle, and German luxury vehicles are the most expensive, really, to maintain.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of other costs, of course, you do have your insurance cost. I don't have the exact number right off the top of my head, but I do remember that it is very similar actually to what we pay for the Hyundai Sonata. They're pretty close to each other, so of course it's a little bit more expensive being a more expensive product, but a lot of insurance cost is tied up in how safe your vehicle is, and both of those vehicles are going to have, a lot of good safety systems that are going to keep you from crashing, which is something that a lot of insurance companies are looking for.
Yeah, and I do also want to talk about some other things that you might be curious about. The cost of the tires, I went ahead and looked that up. Of course, we have not had to replace the tires. We chose the all-season tires for this model because we do live in Kentucky. You can also opt for summer tires from the factory, but they are Pirelli. I can put the exact name on there, but I believe they're Pirelli P0s, actually, and they're 19-inch wheels. The cost is about $351 a tire. So you're looking at $1,400 for the set of 4 tires, and that's before labor, so it's not exactly a cheap tire, that's for sure. No. These are run flats, so run flats do cost more than other versions of tires because, of course, there's additional things that they have in that.
And they're also known to wear faster, so we'll be monitoring that through our ownership experience and keep you guys posted on that if we experience an unusual fast wear on these. But yeah, once again, like I said, we'll be monitoring that just to make sure, because some people do complain that run flats wear a lot quicker than a standard tire, and like Mason was saying, there is an additional expense associated with having the run flat ability.
Now, cost to own when it comes to fuel efficiency and fuel economy. That's obviously a very big part, actually probably the biggest cost, especially on a new vehicle, is the fuel and all of those things. This being a plug-in hybrid, we have actually been able to significantly reduce our fuel expense and basically translate that to electricity, which, at least in our home state of Kentucky, and as we talked about in our real-world range test, is a lot less expensive than buying premium fuel. This vehicle is rated to go about 21 miles on a single charge, and because of that, we've been able to drive on average around 65% of our driving month to month under just electricity. Now, we don't do a ton of road trips where we're going 300-400 miles at a time. We do a lot of city driving, and that's why we're able to have that 65% ratio, but obviously that saves us a lot of money over the lifetime of this vehicle. In 200 miles, you can do the math on that. About 65% of that is going to be under electricity cost instead of premium fuel cost. And with this vehicle only having about a 10-gallon fuel tank, I would say it'd be pretty annoying to have to stop and fill up with gas all the time. When you are operating as just a gas vehicle, from our test, we've done about 34 miles per gallon on highway driving just on gasoline. So it's not an inefficient vehicle when it's operating just under the gas power, but of course, you're going to further reduce that expense if you're able to just keep it in electric.
That's where we're going to conclude today's long-term update after 1 year with this BMW 330e. Hopefully you guys found this insightful, and you'll want to stay tuned for all the future updates we're going to be doing with this vehicle as we keep it and go through all the ownership experiences, because that really is the true way to get to know a vehicle, is to have it over the long term and really enjoy it, but also put it through its paces, you know what I mean? So stay tuned as you see more updates, and we hope you really enjoyed this one today.
And if you're new to the channel, we would really encourage you to hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you help us to make more videos like this. And if you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support. It does really mean a lot to us. We'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.